Peter Obi has now changed political parties 5 times since the Fourth Republic. APGA, PDP, Labour Party, ADC, and now NDC. 5 parties, 1 man, 1 presidency chase. And while everyone is busy celebrating or condemning the move to the NDC, nobody is asking the real question. Not whether Peter Obi will win in 2027, but whether by moving this way, at this time, in this manner, he has quietly destroyed the one thing the Southeast has been fighting for since the Civil War ended: an Igbo presidency. Because there's a claim that dropped this week that I want to sit with today, that Peter Obi, by leaving the ADC for the NDC, has pushed Igbo's chance at the presidency backwards by 20 years. Is that an exaggeration? Or is it the most honest political statement made in Nigeria this week? Stay with me. Before we go deeper, if you're just finding Naijanewsfeed, welcome. This channel exists to break down what's really happening in Nigerian politics without the noise and without the spin. The only way you can help me do better and keep bringing you breakdowns like this is to hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications. It's free, it costs you nothing, and it means everything to me. Let's go. So, let's set the scene. What exactly happened and why does it matter right now? On Sunday, May 3rd, 2026, Peter Obi formally announced his resignation from the African Democratic Congress, the ADC, a party he had only joined in December 2025. That's 5 months. He was in the ADC for just 5 months. Within hours of that announcement, he walked into the National Secretariat of the Nigeria Democratic Congress, the NDC, alongside former Kano governor and former NNPP presidential candidate Rabiu Kwankwaso, and both men collected their membership cards. They were received by NDC national leader Senator Seriake Dickson, the former Bayelsa governor. Now, this wasn't a shock to everyone who had been watching. The crisis inside the ADC had been building for months. The trouble started in July 2025 when the party's long-standing chairman, Ralph Ndiwosu, stepped aside. A caretaker committee was installed with David Mark as chairman and Ralph Aregbesola as national secretary. That triggered a legal dispute. The matter went to court, and by March 2026, even the Supreme Court had ruled to send the substantive issues back to the Federal High Court, meaning the legal battles were far from over. Then comes another layer. Atiku Abubakar had also joined the ADC and was widely expected to contest the presidential ticket. Obi himself had said he hoped the process would be credible enough to produce the best candidate. It clearly wasn't giving him the assurances he needed. So, his reason for leaving? A toxic political environment, external interference, endless court cases, internal battles, suspicion, and division. His exact words. And the NDC's appeal? Simple. A smaller platform, no legal baggage, and crucially, a presidential ticket already zoned to the south, which positions Obi perfectly. That last part is important. We'll come back to it. Now, let's talk about the structure, the rules of the game that shape everything happening here. Under Nigeria's Electoral Act, INEC has a deadline for the submission of party membership lists. That's a key reason for the timing of this move. Obi and Kwankwaso needed to beat that INEC deadline to be validly registered members of NDC ahead of the 2027 electoral cycle. This wasn't random timing, it was deliberate and deadline-driven. Second, the ADC's internal crisis illustrates something the Nigerian constitution struggles to address cleanly: intra-party democracy. The law says parties must conduct free and fair primaries, but the courts are still the main battlefield for resolving internal party disputes, and those battles drag on for months, sometimes years. This is exactly what Obi said paralyzed the Labour Party, and he says he saw the same pattern emerging in the ADC. Now, about the NDC itself. It's a registered party, but it was relatively small before this week. However, in the aftermath of Obi and Kwankwaso's defection, 17 House of Representative members and 1 senator formally defected from the ADC to the NDC during a National Assembly plenary session. That is a significant injection of legislative muscle into what was previously a minor party. The NDC also quickly announced that it had zoned its 2027 presidential ticket to the south, confirmed by party chieftain Buba Galadima on Channels Television. That zoning is not constitutionally binding, but it is a political signal, and in Nigerian politics, signals matter enormously. The grey area to watch, though, whether the NDC can avoid the very court cases Obi fled from the ADC, because Nigerian politics has a habit of following politicians into their new homes. Here's the thing that caught me. While Obi was pleading with NDC members to please don't go to court, one of the first things that happened after Kwankwaso supporters joined NDC in Kano was a dispute over party leadership that almost immediately stalled. Sound familiar?
This is where it gets really interesting. Let's follow the power. Who benefits? The NDC is the obvious winner in the short term. In one weekend, it went from a minor party to housing two of the most prominent opposition figures in Nigeria. One with a massive southeastern and youth base, the other with structured northern grassroots. Seriake Dixon himself described Obi and Kwankwaso as personifications of the crowd. That's not flattery, that's strategy. Buba Galadima's claim that the APC systematically destroyed the Labour Party and the NNPP to consolidate power is worth taking seriously. The pattern Obi described in the Labour Party, external interference, court cases, internal instability, did happen. Whether it was coordinated is another matter, but the perception is real, and perceptions in politics create reality. Who loses? The ADC loses badly. Atiku Abubakar now leads a coalition that's missing its two most nationally mobile figures. The legislative defections further weaken what was supposed to be the main opposition vehicle. The PDP, structurally diminished, with Atiku already gone and now the opposition gravitating toward a new center. And the Southeast. This is the most contested question. Let me lay it out clearly. The pro-Obi argument. Every move he has made has been to find the best vehicle to win the presidency. The NDC's presidential ticket being zoned to the south gives him a cleaner path to the ticket than fighting Atiku in the ADC. A Peter Obi Kwankwaso ticket, Southeast President, Northwest Vice President, is arguably the most logical North-South pairing for a broad coalition. Kwankwaso's Kwankwasia movement has one of the most disciplined voter structures in the North. The counter-argument, and this is the one that's making noise this week. Kasimu Maigari, a member of the ADC National Legislators Forum, said something on Arise News that has been circulating widely. My worry is not if Peter Obi will win the presidency. My worry is that Peter Obi has pushed Igbos 20 years backwards from getting the presidency. His argument is this: Obi supporters, many of them, are not there for a long-term Igbo presidency project. They are there because Obi is on the ballot and riding his coattails gives them the best shot at winning their own state assembly seats, House of Rep slots, or governorship tickets. Once the election is done, win or lose, they move on. And every time Obi changes parties, he fractures the coalition he's trying to build. He gets another fresh start, but the cumulative message sent to the rest of Nigeria is, this man cannot hold institutional ground. To win a Nigerian presidency, you don't just need votes, you need an enduring political structure. That structure gets harder to build every time you restart. And there's a fifth party problem that I want to come back to, because it connects directly to why critics say 2027 may not be Obi's last attempt, but the Southeast's last window. Hold that thought. Let's zoom out. What does this mean for Nigeria? Opposition fragmentation continues. You now have the APC running Nigeria, the PDP is a shadow of its former self, the ADC is wounded, and the NDC is the new consolidation point. But it hasn't been tested under electoral pressure. Nigeria's opposition has a structural problem. It can't stop fighting itself long enough to fight the ruling party. For ordinary Nigerians, this matters because a healthy opposition is part of what keeps a government accountable. When opposition parties are too busy running to court over who owns the party structure, they are not doing policy, They are not building platforms. They are not holding the executive to account in a meaningful way. The Southeast dimension is real and complex. The Igbo presidency aspiration isn't just sentiment, it's a legitimate argument rooted in zoning logic. Every other geopolitical zone has produced a president except the Southeast. In a country structured around federal character and geopolitical balancing, that's a genuine conversation. But the argument from Maigari, and he's not the only one making it, is Obi's approach has made it harder for the Southeast to build the multi-regional coalition needed because a candidate who has changed parties 5 times invites the criticism that he's chasing a personal ambition, not anchoring a regional mandate. If what I just laid out surprises you, or you think I'm getting this wrong, drop a comment below right now. Tell me, is Peter Obi's party movement a strategic necessity or is it political damage? I'm reading every comment, and if this kind of breakdown is what you come here for, the single biggest thing you can do to help me keep making it is to subscribe to this channel. It doesn't cost you anything, but it tells YouTube this content matters and it helps me reach more people. Hit subscribe. Now, let's get to the part that changes the whole picture. There isn't a major direct international dimension to this specific story, but there's a pattern worth noting. Nigeria's 2027 elections are already being watched by Western democracies, particularly the US and UK, given the economic turbulence, security challenges in the Northeast and Southeast, and ongoing concerns about democratic backsliding across West Africa. For Nigerians in the diaspora, especially the heavily obedient diaspora community that was enormously active in 2023, this move will be a test of loyalty. Many diaspora supporters tied their hopes to the Labour Party project and the symbolic weight of it. The NDC doesn't carry that same weight yet. The diaspora community needs to ask, are they backing Peter Obi the individual, or were they backing a movement built around a platform? Because the answer to that question will shape whether the Obi-Kwankwaso project gets diaspora funding, campaigning, and international press attention in 2027.
Let me be fair, because there are genuine counter-arguments here. The strongest argument for Obi's move. The evidence that the ADC was being systematically destabilized is not zero. The Labour Party faced documented legal battles and internal crises after 2023. The ADC faced similar court paralysis, with matters bouncing from the appeal court to the Supreme Court back to the Federal High Court. If you believe, as NDC's Buba Galadima argued, that the APC has a policy of wrecking opposition parties from within, then Obi staying in the ADC and fighting the battles on his own would have been political suicide. The NDC at this point in time comes without that legal baggage. Moving may be the rational calculation. The misconception being pushed. The APC's mockery of Obi as a politician made of jelly, used by presidential spokesman Bayo Onanuga, is designed to dismiss rather than analyze. Yes, Obi has changed parties, but let's be accurate. Nigeria's political parties are not ideologically distinct institutions, they are vehicles. Most Nigerian politicians have changed parties multiple times. The criticism of Obi on that basis coming from the APC is somewhat ironic, given how many of its own members defected from other parties to join it. Where the criticism holds, the problem isn't that Obi changed parties. The problem is the cumulative message it sends about building durable political institutions. Nigeria doesn't just need a candidate who wins, it needs politicians who can build something that lasts beyond one election cycle. A fifth party in one career is not a party-building record, it is the opposite. And here's the uncomfortable truth that nobody in the Obi camp wants to say out loud. The ADC spokesman said Obi left because NDC was the only party that could promise him the ticket without him having to fight for it. If that's true, and the ADC's own spokesperson said it publicly, then this wasn't about ideology or national interest. It was about getting a guaranteed seat at the table. And that matters. So, what happens next? What should you watch for? Most likely near-term moves. The NDC will try to consolidate quickly, pulling in more lawmakers, state-level structures, and civil society. Watch for Seriake Dixon to act fast while the momentum is there. Atiku Abubakar will face pressure from within the ADC to reposition the party or from NDC's Galadima to cross over. Keep watching that space. The APC will continue the political nomad narrative, using every party switch to chip away at Obi's credibility on the campaign trail. Signals to watch. If the NDC faces any internal legal dispute in the next 3 to 6 months, it will severely damage Obi's credibility for this move. If it stays stable, the coalition could grow. Watch Anambra. The ADC reportedly lost over 23 aspirants from Anambra State alone following the leadership crisis there. If those aspirants migrate to the NDC, it signals that the Southeast political machinery is genuinely behind Obi's new platform. Best case scenario, NDC stays united, Obi secures the presidential ticket, and the Obi Kwankwaso ticket becomes the most viable North-South presidential pairing since the early days of the Fourth Republic. Worst case scenario, the NDC faces the same legal and internal disruptions. Obi is either forced to negotiate a running mate position under Atiku, which would be the third cycle of him playing second, or he contests on a platform too weak to challenge Tinubu or whoever the APC fields, and the Southeast's window, which was genuinely open in 2023, quietly closes. Remember the five-party problem I mentioned earlier? Here's why it matters. The next president after 2027, if Tinubu wins again or whoever wins, will likely serve until 2031. If Obi is not president by 2031, the argument for an Igbo presidency has to start over from scratch. Not because the Southeast isn't deserving, they are, but because political capital expires. And every year that passes without a credible, stable, long-term Igbo presidential project is another year where other zones consolidate their argument. 20 years is not a metaphor, it might actually be the timeline. We opened with this question: has Peter Obi, by moving from the ADC to the NDC, pushed the Igbo presidency backwards by 20 years? Here's my measured, honest answer. The 20-year claim is deliberately provocative, made by an ADC loyalist with every incentive to frame it that way. Take it as analysis, not prophecy. But the underlying concern is legitimate. The Igbo presidency is not just about Peter Obi. It is about whether the Southeast can build a political structure that the rest of Nigeria must negotiate with election after election, not just one election. What Obi's party movements communicate, fairly or unfairly, is instability, and instability is the one thing that makes political allies hesitant. If the NDC holds together, if the Obi Kwankwaso ticket is credible, if the coalition actually builds structures on the ground rather than just at the National Secretariat in Abuja, then this move could be vindicated. But if it doesn't, if in another 12 months we're talking about another internal crisis, another court case, another move, then we will have to seriously ask whether the problem is the parties or whether it is the approach. And that is a conversation the Southeast deserves to have, honestly, without tribalism and without defensiveness. What do you think? Drop it in the comments. I want to hear from you. If this breakdown gave you clarity on what's really happening in Nigerian politics right now, do me one favor. Share this video with one person who needs to understand this. Just one. And if you're not already subscribed to Naijanewsfeed, do it now. This channel only grows when people who care about real analysis show up and support it. Subscribing is the only way you can help me keep doing this and doing it better. Like the video, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay sharp.